Hey everybody, this is George from Valiant. We're putting together a webinar that was based on a lunch and learn we had completed about collaborating within Office 365. I think it's really topical right now to use these tools while everyone's kind of working remotely or working from home, wherever you are. And what we're going to do is kind of run this through as a kind of conversational workflow of the different tools. So I'm going to hand this over to our MC, Marianne, who is our head trainer, and she's going to kind of run through it. So let's get started.
Cool. So we're going to go over some of the Office 365 tools, sort of one at a time, discuss, again, like George said, how we use them. So let's start with the basic Office suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and let's talk about co-authoring documents. I know that these have been around forever, and you guys are probably pretty familiar with it, but with Office 365, they've made it so you can be working on the same documents at the same time. You can get a uniform experience. You don't need to have a bunch of multiple versions. So let's see what that looks like. I've got a document that we've been working on together right here. It's just an idea of us coming up with 20 topics that we can basically plug in and send people tips and tricks on. So I'm working on this document. You can see here, I've got JP is working on this cell right now. I'm clicking some of these. You can see that people have put in some comments, and one of the comments is that there's already a knowledge base article on it that we can refer to. And you can see Justin is updating it as we go. So it's really helpful. We use this a lot. We don't want to have different versions. And look, here's Megan as well. We don't want to have different versions. We want to have these live updates. If I come back to this later, I don't necessarily have to be editing it at the same time as them, but I can see what edits they made. I can see the most up-to-date version of this. So, if you haven't stopped this already, stop downloading, editing, uploading, emailing back and forth and back and forth. We totally recommend using these co-authoring documents. Now we're using it in the browser. You can also just click the open the desktop app and it works the same in regular Excel as well. Cool. The next one I want to talk about, I want to get a little bit more input on OneDrive. So, the basics of OneDrive, this is your cloud-based file storage. This is the way that you can have all your files accessible from anywhere. And I know that JP uses this a lot. So JP, can you tell me a little bit more about how you're using OneDrive to, get your files everywhere at once?
Sure, absolutely. So the most useful thing in the past couple of days is I have OneDrive set up on my desktop in the office and on my laptop, and it just automatically syncs all the files that are on my desktop or in my documents to OneDrive, and I can get to all of them. So last week I saved a file to my desktop, thinking I'm going to be able to come back and get it again. This week I'm not in the office, but that file just shows up on my laptop right there, and I can pull it up right away. So that's been super useful.
Yeah, that's funny because I almost use it not the opposite way. It's the same thing because it's syncing, but I save documents to my OneDrive in the cloud, and then I open it from my desktop, and I actually can show you that as well. I can just bring up my normal file explorer, and this is my OneDrive. So these files, which I made online and I saved online, are actually right here, and I can open them just like normal, right in Word. So yeah, it's super convenient. So OneDrive is really, your individual files. SharePoint is your shared files. So these belong to your organization, they belong to your department. These are, the difference between having a personal share on a server and having a shared folder or a shared drive on a server. That's what SharePoint is. So it's really the centralized place for this. Can also be super convenient. I know, Megan, you used this recently for a client and it was super helpful. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, SharePoint just made me having to transition to working from home so much easier. We had a document that we needed to get to a client. I needed George's input, I needed Justin's input, but I was like the point person. And so having the central location, having everyone have access to it, and the fact that we could all work on it at once. The document was able to be completed by the end of the day. It got to be vetted by all the eyes that needed to vet it, and we could send it out to the customer knowing that it was in the best shape it could be. So SharePoint's been one of my favorite things while I've had to transition to work from home, because I still know I have all my resources of the office too. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's also cool.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
I was just gonna say, it's also cool that you can, like, you're sharing it amongst yourselves, but you can share from SharePoint externally as well, and you can make it so it's read only if that's what you want to do. So it's it is super useful for all that stuff. And sorry, George.
Exactly. Sorry, we get some feedback from certain. We've been slowly transitioning a lot of clients over to this Office 365 collaborative environment in the past couple of years as it's gotten really improved, and we got some feedback from a client that was at first kind of hesitant about the project and didn't really enjoy the transition, but we got thank God we did this beforehand. So we were really super happy that happened, that it was done, and they're able to work in a way that is not super stressful because it's not a huge change for them.
Yeah, I mean, everything was going to the cloud before all this stuff went down, and now it's necessary, where before it was just like super helpful for workflow and productivity and, flexibility. So
yeah,
exactly.
Cool. There's a bunch of other applications. OneNote is one that I find a lot of people aren't that familiar with, but if you've ever used Evernote, it's very similar. It's a great way to do like collaborative brainstorming and whiteboarding. I know Matt and I have used this a lot. He's our creative director, and we've used this for when we're coming up with content and like different initiatives, like literally what we're doing right now. But I'm going to show you one that we were working on before. This is the same thing that I was showing you before, 20 tips and tricks that we can just quick send out to people, hopefully to be helpful. And yeah, this is a way that we can be working on this. The cool thing is it's not just text. You can also do, you can see there's links, there's pictures. You can actually embed videos that are relevant, which is really cool. And they have a couple of different things. If you look at the top, all the things that you can add. Audio, you can add actual audio to it. You can actually do talk to text, which is very cool. Although obviously, sometimes it'll mishear you, but it's very convenient if you don't want to be the person who's typing, which I never want to be that person. So.
Yeah, this has actually turned out to be a great tool for us as a team. I'll admit that at first it was a little bit difficult to begin working with because it required some change in how you look at things. But I got to tell you, it's nice to be able to have OneNote and not have sticky notes all over the place. I no longer walk around with a small recorder, saying note to self, remember X, Y, and Z. And that's good, because I think that people are starting to think that I was a little weird as the guy from like 1982 recorder. So now, thanks to OneNote, I can really simplify the note-taking process and the brainstorming work that we do. And even now, through the cloud, I can open up Marianne's OneNote and quickly make some changes or additions.
Yeah, while Matt's doing that, I use OneNote with the mobile app all the time. So when I'm at a client meeting taking notes, I take it on my phone, and because it's in the cloud, it syncs. When I get back to my desk, it's already there in the desktop version, and I don't have to worry about where did I write that down, where did I save that. I just know that it's all there.
Yeah, and you don't have to, exactly like you said, you don't have to like transfer it from your phone to the computer. It's there, it's just ready. OneNote's also very integratable, so with all the other Office 365
Marianne, if you would do me a favor, could you hit the sync button on OneNote on your computer so that the viewers can see the changes that I'm adding to this note right now?
Probably.
It's going to be the icon just underneath your name. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to find sometimes. On the right-hand side. There you go.
No, that's page saved.
Yep.
This is good for me to see too.
Yeah, I don't page last sync just now. So.
Okay, let's give it a moment or two. After all, we do have a significant part of the population working remotely, and internet lines and so are a little bit taxed.
A little bit congested, sure.
This is just proof that we're doing this in real time, and technology works, and sometimes it doesn't quite work the way we want, but also that's why a company like this is here. We're here to help. So yeah, let's move on from OneNote, and maybe we'll circle back to it by the time we're done. We'll see some of those updates in place.
Awesome. Cool. So Planner. So this one is another one that like a lot of people don't know about, and it's actually super helpful. It's a great way to do task management. I can show you one that we've been working on too. But it's a really good way, like if you have an initiative and you want to see where things are, how the progress is, you want to assign things out, it's really cool. So let me bring that one up that we have as well in here. So this is our editorial calendar. So this is all about like the knowledge base articles that Matt and I write, the blog posts that a lot of our people, especially George and Matt, write. This is a way that we can just make columns for where these things are, what the progress is on them. We can assign it to certain people. The cool thing is also you can attach documents that are in SharePoint. So you can see that this one's ready to be written, it's already being worked on. And if I want to see what the progress is, I can just open up that file by clicking this link. So it's a nice way to see this stuff. It's very visual and it's super easy to use. If I'm ready to move one of these ones into ready to be written, I can just drag and drop. If I've already completed something, I can check that off. I actually did complete that one, so should have checked that one off already. But it is just a really cool way to move things from this part to this part to this part. And then also just to visualize how much stuff is ready, what bucket it's in, things like that. And if you're using this if you're setting due dates on a lot of the stuff, it'll also make a calendar for you. We didn't really set due dates on those necessarily, but it'll populate this. You can sync it to your Outlook calendar, so it can be really helpful. Just basic task management, and I like using it for initiatives and things like that. Yeah, this is a great way to do that.
This is also a very lightweight way to help entire teams that are working remotely stay on task right now. I think that, there are a lot of other pieces of software out there, including Microsoft Project, which are fantastic, but they take time to plan and essentially develop into a tool that's going to work with how your team works. Whereas something like Microsoft Planner is so basic in function, although
just start it up. Yeah,
exactly. The basic functionality is the most critical functionality you're going to need for any type of project management or planning. So this is an excellent way to help teams really stay on track at this time when no one's actually face-to-face to talk about what's being done.
Well, also, I mean, a lot of task managers, project planners, things like that, you have to figure out which one you want to use. This is, no commitment because you just get it if you have Office 365. It's already built into the package. So check it out. You have it, use it, make use of it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Teams. I don't know about you guys, but this is like my favorite. I use it all the time. I'm even talking to like my friends. I'm like, oh, forget Google Hangouts. Let's start talking on Teams, like for personally, because it's just so useful. So I mean, at the very basic, if you guys have used Teams, anyone out there has used Teams before, it can just be very basically a chat platform. You can do instant direct messaging. You can do basically chat rooms, but in channels. But then you can actually make it integrate with a lot of Office 365 and third-party applications and make it a whole productivity hub. But with this remote everything, one of the most useful features is being able to have Teams meetings. So that's either audio or video calls individually or a conference call, which actually we did when we were planning this out. We were all hopped on a conference call. We all like practiced our lighting, right, guys? We sent each other links to all the things that we've been collaborating with right now in front of you. And even I sent everyone a picture of all of our video cameras like set up because I'm definitely using that in an article in the future. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I use it even just for impromptu meetings. You can start chatting with somebody, and then there's a button on the top right that says, call or video, and you just hit that, and everybody gets the pop-up that you're starting a call. George and I used this yesterday. We had a meeting with George and myself and Jean, one of the other partners with George, and we were talking about something that we were going to work on and needed the input from a couple other people on the team. We just hit them into Teams, said add to this, and they popped right into the call, and we kept going. It was really seamless.
And
Yeah.
of course, the same can be said for guest access. You do have the ability to add guests into voice and video meetings as well. That's something I do on a regular basis with some of the consultants that we work with. And instead of using Zoom or Google or any one of the other softwares that they prefer to use for themselves, I ask them to use Teams. That way, there's only one tool being used as opposed to having 5 or 6 different tools on your computer, which quite frankly can be confusing. It's easier to use one interface as often as you can, and Teams allows us to do that and tie it in with everything else that we use in the company.
Oh yeah, I've
Exactly.
used Teams for remote trainings. I've just sent everyone a link. You know, you create the Outlook event, and then you click make it a Teams event, and it's already got a link in there. Depending on what license you have, it might even have a call-in number. So
Right.
I just do that, and entire clients, I'm like, hey guys, we're learning about security now. Click this link, and you can join, and it's super easy.
Exactly. We're fine. We're using it. Megan and I use it yesterday for a phone call with a client, a prospect actually, and we're using it daily for a management stand-up that we have. Interesting enough, we've been using it at Valiant for years now. I actually have a weekly stand-up with Matt that we do our marketing planning for just everything we do. And we find that, interestingly enough, that we find that we're kind of more effective when we do the Teams meeting than in person, because in person, it's kind of, we get off track. With Teams, because we can use the notes, share screens, that sort of thing. We can stay on track and continue working together on it. And that's a really powerful tool because, once again, we can leverage what we have, even though we're all working remotely. And, it's been interesting experiment to see us move forward, considering that we haven't seen each other in a week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of. Yep.
Oh, and also one cool thing, Justin and I have done this before. He's screen sharing to me, showing me how to, a way to do something, but we can record it. Like there's just a quick button, and then it stays in there. It's saved in like the Teams SharePoint that's associated with it, and I can refer back to it and be like, wait, how did I do that again? Or we had this meeting on a Friday, and out my brain over the weekend. So you can record, you can screen share, you can video chat. You can not video chat if you don't want to, put on your face that day or get dressed. I'm just saying, it's remote work. See the silver lining. It's really cool and really powerful, and I love it. So that's
excellent.
Cool.
All right. I mean, let's get some of the more, Mary Ann, you going through some of these more unusual features of Office 365, but ones that I think we should explore since we have the time to do so.
Yeah. And again, it's already built in. If you go to office.com, it's going to have a big list of apps at the top, and then you can just click all apps, and there's more that you have access to that is included with your Office 365 subscription. So I know, JP, you've been using Delve a little bit more than I have. It's got some interdepartmental awareness, and it shows you sort of what things are being worked on. But tell me a little bit about, how do you use it?
Yeah, so it shows you stuff that other people have worked on or that you've worked on, only things that you would have access to. So it doesn't like show you what's in somebody's OneDrive if they didn't share it with you,
Sure.
but it does give you an idea of what people are working on. And I use it all the time. If I know Megan and George are working on something for that prospect yesterday, and I just need to find that particular file. I don't know where they were saving it. I know they shared it with me. I can go into Delve and see it just like, oh, this is the recent work that they've done. Click on that and open up the file and put my my notes on it. You can also search from there too. I use it for that all the time. Good example of that was Nick, our service director, and I had maybe like a year and a half ago, worked on a document together. And a couple of weeks ago, we were working on something. We said, wait, didn't we do this at one point? I thought we had something. And I used Delve to go find that file buried in my OneDrive somewhere. And was like, oh yeah, here it is.
Right, because you didn't know if it was in OneDrive or a SharePoint or
I just knew that I had worked on it at some point, and I knew what it was about. So I put in some keywords, did a search, and then it popped up in the list. And I said, oh, there it is, and sent them the link and said, here, I found it, and saved us a bunch of time.
Yeah, don't need to do work twice. So cool. Let's see, next on my list, I have Microsoft Streams. This is something I use all the time because as the training manager. So sometimes I'll make a lot of training videos, and Stream is cool because I can put them into channels. I wrote that it's like internal YouTube, but it's been really helpful for like when we onboard a new staff person, you know, they go through orientation, but so much information at once. So then I've got like a new staff channel so they can just review the videos of how to use this tool that we use and
Personal testimonial. It was so helpful when you onboarded me. Yeah, I just want to say I referred to Marianne's videos a lot during my start.
yeah.
Right.
And it's pretty cool. It also does like it does automatic captioning, which is also cool. I mean, sometimes it doesn't quite get it right, but you can edit it really easily and just be like, no, I said, you know, fishing with a PH or something like that. So it's really, it's super helpful. And it's a good place to just keep resources as well. I can, you know, make sure people know and view my videos before I send them out to people without having that huge file having to be transferred or anything. It's just in stream. So I really like that one. I've also got forms on here. So we use this one too for just basic data collection. It can be pretty basic, but the cool thing is that it also like ties in with other Office 365 things. So you can get, you know, people filling out your form, giving you feedback on, let's say, a webinar. And then you can have it export to Excel and really like look at that data and see what it's all about. Yeah, so that one's cool. Flow and Power Automate is really cool. I know Justin uses this more than me, but they also have some really simple ones that you can just click and turn on. But Justin, what do you usually use it for?
I think the biggest one that I use it for is I set up a flow so that every time I get an email with an attachment, it saves it into my OneDrive. So if anyone has ever sent me an attachment, I have it in a folder somewhere and I can always get it. I don't have to go through Outlook to find it. And that's been super useful. That one is actually a built-in one. You can just go and click through and it'll, you log in with your email once you're there and it'll automate that for you. A couple that I did that we use, we have a text to email that comes in for some two-factor codes and for some internal messaging. I built a flow that scrapes those codes that come in and puts it into a Teams channel so that if somebody is waiting on one of those texts, they could look at the Teams channel and it just pops up. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, but a lot of it is built in and a lot of third-party connectors that let you do external stuff. So even let's say you have a Dropbox, a company Dropbox account, you can tie that in as well too. When a file is put into a Dropbox account, send an email notification that says this file is here, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know when I was working in Planner, there's one where it's like, if someone assigns me a Planner task, just shoot me an email. Just so you know, you don't have to check Planner, you get the notification. So, and that's one that they built for you. So you just go, you like say, I want to see what I can do in Planner. And it's like, check, I want that one turned on, you know? So you don't need to know programming and if then for a lot of these. You can just be like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, these are part of a overall move towards what's called business process automation and low code or no code solutions, and there's some really powerful stuff that is coming out of this where you can, especially when you're living in within the Office 365 ecosystem, and so you can really just dive deep into it and understand how to just maximize the usability of the tools, which is great. And Justin and I kind of talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way also because, I mean, we just talked about what 10 different tools, and you want to know, like, if you want to know how they can work together, that's a way that you can do it. Things that you might manually do constantly, like, oh, I'm going to constantly move, like you said, the attachment to my OneDrive, I want it saved there. You don't have to do that anymore. Just Office 365 does it for you. So that's very cool.
Very cool. Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, so yeah, so that's just sort of the basics on that. We have a couple of more deep dives that's coming up and stuff that's already been created. So the first one on the list is the knowledge base. So this contains guides, articles, videos, and like step-by-step how-tos, which is really helpful. So if you want to know more about we talked about syncing OneDrive to your computer. There's a how-to on that, and you can follow the steps and you can figure out, do it for yourself. So that's thevaliantway.com/KB. We're creating stuff all the time and adding more, so definitely check it out. Something that we're focusing on, obviously, for this week is remote work, so yeah, check that out. The client portal, if you are a Valiant client, this is a great way for you to create your support tickets, see what the progress is on them, and then this also has a hub for launching some of the Office 365 apps or some of the applications that might be relevant to you. So it's a good way if you want to be able to reach out to us, open tickets, portal.thevaliantway.com. And then last but not least, we are aggregating all our information on remote work in the Valiant Remote Work Resource Center. We made a nice shortened, easier to remember bit.ly link there. So it's bit.ly-COVID-center. It's a good way to get information on working remotely. So this will include blog posts or like that step-by-step how-to, advice, tips, tricks, and we're adding stuff to that all the time. This is going to go on there right after we finish this and clean it up a little. But yeah, so check that out. We're going to keep updating that. And honestly, like this is a bit of a transition for a lot of people, but luckily you've got the tools. We just need to know how to use them best. So, yeah.
Exactly. I think so much of this is going to be an evolving situation, as we all know, and please just keep checking these content. We're going to be publishing this stuff out to some various different means, such as social, LinkedIn, YouTube, obviously our webpage, and I just want to get people safe and sound working. Some of the next topics we'll talk about is security in during this time, and just kind of keeping things moving along. So I think that's good for today. I think if you guys are good, we can stop recording and get to the next page. All right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
All right, thank you.
Okay.